The American president, Trump, is in real trouble today. He's in a very difficult political situation. We could say that he's become frustrated, cornered, and is truly in a real predicament. This is exactly how the American website Axios described it. Iran is imposing its conditions in cold blood. With this three-stage proposal, America is faced with two bitter choices. Either admit defeat and open the Strait of Hormuz under Iran's conditions, or wait for the big explosion that will start on the 1st of May. So what is the connection between the Shah's son and what is happening today behind closed doors? And why? Has the Iranian Revolutionary Guard begun preparations for a decisive strike? We have some very important developments today, but we'll take a break and be right back. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings, and welcome to today's renewed episode of the Opinion series, which we are dedicating today to keep up with the latest developments and updates of this conflict taking place in the Middle East between Iran and the Epstein coalition. The first thing we start with today, dear viewers, is what was reported on the American Axios website, which said that US administration officials are very concerned that this conflict with Iran could turn into a frozen confrontation, meaning it would become a suspended conflict, neither returning to war nor reaching a peace agreement. Things remain suspended like this, meaning as they are today, and the Hormuz confrontation also remains closed in this way. So this website said that the American administration, the Trump administration, is very worried about this scenario, which has become likely today, and it's clear that this is exactly what Iran wants now. I mean, and I explained to you in the previous episode, which was about this topic, how Iran presented a new proposal consisting of 3 stages. The first stage is to stop the war, while the second stage will be negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz, which will of course last for many months, and then if an agreement is reached regarding the Strait of Hormuz, the third stage will be about Iran's nuclear program. This means freezing the conflict. This means entering a long series of negotiations while maintaining this situation, meaning keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed. According to what was reported on the Axios website, Trump, meaning the American administration in general, is very concerned about this upcoming scenario, which the parties have clearly already begun entering today. The Axios website said, according to its own source, that the American President Trump has found himself in a very difficult situation, has become frustrated, and is now facing a real predicament, because he is unable to use force again, unable to return to war, and at the same time he is also unable to back down. Because by doing so, he would prove that he actually came out defeated in this war, which could have been avoided, of course, since it was not a necessary war at all. Last week we saw how President Trump extended this truce with Iran unilaterally under the pretext of waiting for negotiations to end, while in reality there aren't even any negotiations yet. And this confirms the predicament that Trump is experiencing. He was forced to extend this truce because he is unable to return to war, and he will always keep extending this truce. This means that we will enter a frozen conflict, and the side that cannot endure any longer, meaning the one that will give up due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, is the one that will back down. Today, we are 60 days into this war. 60 days. The cost of the American military operation has reached more than $65 billion today. Because there is a website called Iran War Cost Tracker. This website monitors and tracks the costs of this war in real time since the beginning. It only calculates the operational budget of these American forces in the region, including personnel, ships, aircraft, and so on. According to the website, we find that America is losing $1 billion daily in this conflict. The total spending since the beginning of this war has reached more than $65 billion. Alright, so now when we review Trump's statements, we find some. He talks about how America is benefiting from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. It produces oil and gas and sells them at these high prices, so it is benefiting, meaning it is making profits from that. But in reality, the situation is different. There is another American website with almost the same name. This website also tracks the prices of diesel and gasoline, and it also calculates in real time how much the American citizen has paid for fuel since the beginning of this war as an additional amount. So we find that the American citizen has paid more than $28 billion since the beginning of this war as an increase over the fuel prices that existed before the war started. The American citizen does not accept any increase, even if it's just 1 cent. This is something everyone should know today. The American citizen punishes the politician who is responsible for such an increase, and he punishes him at the ballot box. This means that such matters have a very significant impact on election results. So Trump is in trouble now. There are states in America where the price of fuel reaches about $6 per gallon, like the state of California. That means we're talking about around $1.50 per liter, 15 dirhams. So when some people hear $1.50 per liter, they might think it's a very normal price. In Morocco, for example, we have the same price. But the difference here is that America is an oil producing and exporting country. So the price there is supposed to be like it is in other producing countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Algeria, Libya, and so on. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, also said today that Europe is losing 500 million euros daily because of what's happening today in the Strait of Hormuz, due to rising fuel costs. If we calculate it since the beginning of this war, we will find that the number reaches or exceeds $30 billion. We're talking just days after the truce, so if the closure of the Strait of Hormuz continues for longer, prices will of course rise even more. The American newspaper, The Wall Street Journal, quoted American officials as saying that Trump ordered his advisor to prepare for a long-term blockade on Iran, meaning to prepare for a frozen conflict that is about to begin. So now, it is noticeable that we are witnessing a unique kind of competition. In fact, each side is trying to show that it is resilient, that it is not affected by what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says that a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz on its part will lead to massive disruptions in the global economy and will cause a serious crisis in the energy sector and so on. Meanwhile, America says that the prolonged naval blockade it imposes on Iran will lead to a serious crisis in Iran because oil production in Iran will stop. As a result, there will be a crisis. Even if an agreement is reached afterwards, both sides are trying to show that the frozen conflict is in their favor, while Axios reveals the truth. As I said, it says there is great concern within the American administration. It is clear that this conflict is now taking on very significant economic dimensions, turning into a war of nerves for Trump. Indeed, as I said, he is the one living in this predicament today. A real predicament. He is just looking for any way out so that he doesn't appear defeated or as if he is suffering. There is a statement by the deputy head of the Israeli Mossad named Udi Levine, who said that the Iranians will never raise the white flag, they will not surrender and will not raise the white flag. And he said that all the assessments about Iran were wrong, they were expecting something, but what happened was something else, completely different. He said that the Mossad's plan failed and that Israel was defeated by Iran. He said this is an operational and strategic defeat. Therefore, there are some today in America who say that Trump might, maybe, move toward making a deal with an Iranian figure and install him as the new president of Iran. Just like what happened in recent years with Venezuela, meaning repeating the Venezuela experience when Venezuela had two governments, the real government inside Venezuela and another fake government, you could say, abroad, meaning when a government was appointed outside the country. And at that time, it gained recognition from most countries in the world. All of America's friendly countries recognized it, including Europe. So Trump, maybe, according to what's being discussed in America, might rely on the same approach to get out of this crisis, until new plans are made regarding Iran. And of course, the proposed figure is the son of the former Shah of Iran. Because his recent appearance in Germany and his media presence there were aimed at gaining European support and recognition. After an announcement from America, it would mean that Bahlouli has become the president of Iran in the same way as Juan Guaido. But it's clear that Europe is rejecting or has rejected this plan, as confirmed exactly by the recent statements made by European leaders. After that, I mean a day or two ago. So this might be one of the solutions that Trump sees as possible. Forming an Iranian government in exile and pushing countries to recognize it until another plan is prepared to overthrow the Iranian regime. But the reality is completely different here. I mean, Iran is not Venezuela. This plan didn't even work with Venezuela, so how could it possibly succeed in Iran? With Iran, which emerged victorious in this war, I mean, it's difficult today to impose a real blockade on it. The problem for Trump this time is that the countries that will recognize this fake Iranian government in exile will be very few. You can count them on your fingers. They have no real influence at all because they will be weak countries with no voice, small countries. There will be no recognition, not from the European Union, nor from Britain, nor from any other influential party. Even the Gulf countries will not be able to recognize it, for fear of any devastating Iranian response. Therefore, this idea is indeed being considered by Trump. As long as it is being discussed in America, it's on the table for Trump. But implementing it will not achieve any success. And this is what makes Trump today hesitant and waiting. Maybe any change could happen suddenly or something else. In fact, predicting what will happen has become very difficult. No one can predict what Trump will do to get out of this predicament. The best solution, in my opinion now, is for Trump to accept the Iranian proposal. This proposal that consists of 3 stages, which might solve this global crisis. So that Trump would then lift the naval blockade on Iran in exchange for Iran opening the Strait of Hormuz in the way Iran wants, meaning by charging fees, by imposing fees on ships. And the negotiations would then continue until the rest of the details are agreed upon. This solution has been proposed from the beginning. This solution is the best, but Trump has concerns because this solution would be seen as an Iranian victory. Therefore, this will strengthen Iranian influence in the region, while America's image in the region will be shaken more and more. That's why Trump is hesitating. He's moving toward the second scenario. What is that? The second scenario that he thinks will succeed. It is the continued imposition of the naval blockade on Iran, believing that this blockade will make Iran surrender and give in. But Iran, as everyone has noticed today, has sent strong messages through a series of statements. The most important of these statements is that today it said it is preparing for an unprecedented military action to confront this piracy. The US Navy, meaning this American naval blockade. Iran said that the Iranian army has shown restraint only to give diplomacy a chance, but everything has its limits, they said. So now it is threatening a return to war, or at least a military action to break this naval blockade, a military action against the US Navy. This brings up the third scenario, which is that if Iran finds itself truly suffering from this naval blockade, Iran will not remain silent. Iran will then intervene militarily and return to the war that Trump wants to avoid. Iran has a very strong doctrine. Anyone who expects Iran to collapse because of a naval blockade is deeply delusional. If Iran finds itself collapsing or even just suffering, it will return to war again and will destroy the entire region. At that point, Iran has a principle and a strategy that it has followed since the beginning of this war. An eye for an eye. Everyone knows that. Iran will not wait to reach the catastrophic situation that Trump is waiting for. Before that, it will move to restart the war. And even today, it still has many other cards it hasn't used yet. For example, it could close the Bab al-Mandab Strait or cut the fiber optic cables that run under the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. It also has the option to restart the war again. The last option that would be Iran's full choice at that point would be either quick strikes that destroy everything in the region for the Epstein alliance in general, or a slow war of attrition that further drains American military capabilities. And here, pay close attention. Trump only has a short time left in this war. Just a few hours remain, and it will end in a little while. On exactly May 1st, the US Congress will have to make a decision, either to stop the war or to grant Trump approval to wage the war and fund it. And today, it's clear that Iran is waiting to see how things will unfold on May 1st, because that day might be a turning point. It will determine the fate of the region. And the problem for America today is that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has become stronger than before after this war. Trump gave it a big opportunity to become this powerful and to become more popular in the region today. Today, the Revolutionary Guard is saying it openly that enough opportunity was given to diplomacy, but it didn't succeed. This means we must return to war, as if they're sending the message that if diplomacy doesn't work, we have to go back to war. If America continues to reject Iran's conditions, then Iran's response will be decisive and different this time. That's what the Revolutionary Guard is saying today. So now we are truly in the final hours before the decisive day arrives that will determine the fate of the region. So we will see exactly what happens in the next few hours, and we will be back, God willing. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. See you next time.